Hi everybody, very welcome to a very special news edition here on the Mentour Pilot channel. As always, I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. So today is Friday the 13th, 2020. And as you would expect, that doesn't come with any good news. So today at 5:08 UTC, a very unusual and very serious incident happened in Novosibirsk in Russia. So a Antonov AN-124 aircraft, that's a 4-engine giant Russian aircraft, was getting ready to take off from runway 25 in Novosibirsk. Everything looked normal, the aircraft lined up, the weather was good, had been some light snow in the morning, but it was clear during the departure. And it took off, and at about 1,000 feet after departure, what looks to be an uncontained engine failure happened to its number 2 engine. That's the engine that is closest to the body on the left-hand side. Now, an uncontained engine failure is extremely rare because the jet engines are constructed for the cowling, the jet engine cowling, which is covering the internal bits of the engine, to be able to take up any kind of debris that is being produced in case an engine would fail. And it does so because, of course, the rotating parts of a jet engine can reach incredible velocities, and if they were allowed to go and breach the cowling, they could create some enormous damage, and that looks to be the case here. Pictures that was flowing all over the internet this morning via Twitter and YouTube and so on is showing loads of damage to both the body of the Antonov AN-124 and also the landing gear and the left-hand wing. So it clearly looks like shrapnel has been escaping from inside of the engine cowling. There was also reports that part of what looks like the part of the engine compressor had fallen through a roof in a nearby building and down onto the floor, but fortunately without hurting anyone. On board the Antonov AN-124 there was 14 people, 6 in the cockpit and 8 people sitting in the back of the aircraft. And they also had 84 tons of cargo that was going on to Vienna. So this was a really heavy aircraft. Just after this happened, at about 1,800 feet, air traffic control lost all contact with the aircraft. Then they also lost their secondary radar echo, which means that their transponder stopped working. So there are incredible videos from inside of the air traffic control tower that's showing the aircraft departing, showing it turning around and subsequently coming in for landing again on runway 25 in Novosibirsk. So the crew did not manage to establish radio contact anymore. They just did a very quick return in for an immediate landing, and the landing looks uneventful. It's actually a really nice soft landing on runway 25. But what does look weird on the videos that I've seen is that there is no signs of any thrust reversers coming out, no spoilers to get the aircraft down on its brakes, neither any brakes being applied, because the aircraft lands and it just keeps the speed going, which would indicate that they had some serious problems with more systems than just the engine. Okay, an aircraft coming in being that heavy, landing on whatever runway that you land, okay, if you don't have access to brakes, for example, or thrust reversers, it is just going to continue to roll, which is exactly what happened here. So the aircraft suffered what we call a runway excursion. It's when the aircraft does not stop on the runway but continues beyond the runway, and it continued for another 200 meters onto the clearway and eventually got to a full stop. Now here's where this actually turns into kind of a good feel story, because even though all of these things happened to the aircraft, all of the 14 people on board will manage to get off the aircraft without being injured. Now, we have been covering this incident on mentorpilot.com, all right? And we keep updating the article as we learn more about this incident. And there's more and more information that's being fed to us all the time. What I would suggest that you guys do, if something like this happened and you are interested in getting good and accurate information, is look at, well, by all means, mentorpilot.com, but also the aviationherald.com, because they have a lot of great information that is up to date and that is unbiased and full of access to pictures and things like that. So I highly recommend you to check out the Aviation Herald. That's avherald.com. Okay. Now, we very early on, after we published our article about this incident, we had one of our readers, which is a Russian citizen, inform us that there had been a video interview with the captain of this aircraft. The video interview, of course, is in Russian, so it's very hard for us to, to say or to translate it without knowing Russian, but he translated it for us, and I'm going to read to you what the transcript of the captain said. So, the second engine exploded and cut electric wires, so we lost all of the electricity, and we returned to the aerodrome of departure on an airplane having a total electrical failure. We lost all communication, both intra-cockpit and with air traffic control. We had just gained about 300 meters of altitude, which is 1,000 feet at that point, and we were a crew of 6 and the other technical crew of 8, and they were in the rear cabin. We took a decision to return to the aerodrome of departure, visually. We tried to establish visual communication with air traffic control, but it didn't work. We took a decision to land on runway 25 since it was a critical situation, and we took a decision to land as soon as possible. We didn't have a lot of altitude and excess thrust, so that also helped that decision. There was a complete electrical failure. Brakes didn't work, reversers didn't work either, since the wires were cut. The landing was soft, there was no damage during the touchdown, all of the damage was due to the runway excursion. The gauges in the cockpit didn't work. From the angle of attack, we figured out that the speed was about 280. So in Russia they would have flown on kilometers per hour, which means 280 is about 150 knots or so. It was calculated airspeed. We haven't even raised the flaps at that time, just raised the gear, and we heard a bang. We still had control of the aircraft, but the electrical system failed completely. Right. Now guys, I cannot overemphasize what an incredible feat of both airmanship and skill it would be to fly a bird of this size with severe problems with at least one of the engines and having lost all instrumentation on board, right? No communication, no instrumentation, an engine failure, and an aircraft that has just taken off with all of the fuel and cargo on board in order to go to Vienna. So it would be extremely heavy. So the fact that this crew managed to turn around, managed to get the aircraft line up nicely for a landing, and a nice landing, and then obviously suffering a runway excursion, but the only real damage to the aircraft being the nose gear collapsing once the aircraft went off the runway, is an incredible feat. All right, and here's where I just want to emphasize that even though this is Friday the 13th, 2020, this is still a relatively happy ending to this story. Now, I want to emphasize that we don't know exactly what happened here. There were some early indications on social media about it possibly being a bird strike. There was a lot of pictures on Twitter, for example, showing an engine with bird parts in it, but we haven't been able to see whether or not it actually came from this incident or from a previous incident. So we don't know what caused the failure. This is up to the accident investigation team to figure out. But the reason that I did this video was that I just wanted to point out the skill that this crew showed, the fact that this was actually a happy ending to a very, very severe event. And yeah, I want you to continue to keep up to date with this, either by following me on Mentour Pilot on the website. We will be updating the article as this goes along, but obviously then reading the full intermittent and final report when it's being released. It's going to be really interesting to know what caused the failure and why it wasn't contained inside of the cowling. But once again, great job by the crew. That's it, guys. I hope you are having a good day. I hope you will have a fantastic weekend going forward, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Right guys, I really hope that you liked that. If you want more content like that, more aviation content, well then check this out. I hope that you have subscribed to the channel and that you've highlighted the little notification bell. See you inside of the Mentour Aviation app and have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye bye.